Welcome to the Fatherhood Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Pluff. Each week, we will cover various topics that dads struggle with in their fitness journey. I'll give you actionable steps that you can apply right away, not only to take back control of your own health, but so you're able to be a better example for your kids too. So my son and I have been reading the book Way of the Warrior Kid by Jocko Willink. And if you know anything about Jocko, then you have a pretty good idea what the book is about. And it's been a really fun read. My son is young, but he's starting to understand, some of the lessons and things like that. And we've been talking about how can we apply these. And one of the biggest themes that kind of comes up, and if you follow Jocko's podcast or have had the privilege of hearing him speak or just listen to any of his audiobooks or read any of his books, he always talks about discipline equals freedom. And we kind of started it as a joke after we came across it in the book. But every time I ask my son now, I say discipline equals, and he immediately responds freedom. And we started talking about that a little bit, kind of applying it to what he's doing, talking about, when he's doing the things, myself and my wife ask him to do, he gets, the privilege of doing other things, right? When he takes care of his responsibilities, he's able to do some things that he chooses to do. And so I think this is a really great concept. This is something that, you can apply it to really anything, but I think it's really important to talk about discipline, not only when it comes to, fitness and nutrition, but just keeping the promises you make to yourself. A common theme, and I talk with my clients about, a common theme I talk about on social media and things, is that if you start to keep the promises you make to yourself, you're going to change your life. And if we put it on paper, like what it takes to, become fit, what it takes to be healthy, what it takes to work out consistently, it's fairly simple, right? But just because something is simple does not mean that it's easy. And so that's where this discipline equals freedom mindset comes in. And it's something that, I've definitely had to work on over the years. And it's something that, I continue to have to implement, but it's something that's always kind of consistently in the back of my mind. And most recently, I started getting back into the routine, getting up really early. And so naturally, I would say, I'm a night owl. I just get a burst of energy, after dinner, and I can get tons of things done in the evening. The problem with that is if I'm up super late working on things, then the chances of me getting up early are much less, right? And as a dad, your kids are probably going to wake up early, right? There's a greater chance that you're going to be able to get things done in the morning if you get more sleep. And if you're staying up late, you're not getting up early. Now your kids are up before you. And for me personally, not that, it's not right or wrong, if you're sleeping when your kids are up, but for me personally, I like to be the first one up. It doesn't always happen. Like I said, if I'm working late in the evenings, sleep is something that is very important. And so I will sleep in a little later if I'm up late working on things, but my goal is to be the first one up in the morning. And because not just because I think it's important for my kids to see that. I mean, I don't think they're thinking right now, like, well, why is a dad in bed right now? And so we've had talks like that too. Like, I was up late working on things and stuff, but I like the fact that when I get up early, I have a morning routine, I get some things done, I start working on some things, a couple hours go by, and then, my kids are up and I've already been productive. I've already gotten the most important tasks of the day done. I've already started making progress on things. And then I'm able to just enjoy some time with my kids before I dive in to the full work day. And so to me, that's where that discipline equals freedom, right? I was disciplined enough to go to bed early the night before. I could have easily watched a show on Netflix, 2 shows on Netflix, 3 shows on Netflix, right? That autoplay feature, it gets you all the time. I could have easily just said, I'm gonna get this done tomorrow. I'm gonna stay up late. Maybe I'm gonna have a drink, which may affect, my sleep quality, which then all of a sudden, I have no motivation to get up. I could easily press snooze. My kids wouldn't know the difference, right? But for me, I would. And I have noticed in myself personally that no matter what time you get up, pressing snooze really just sets my day off in a downward spiral. That first decision of the day, that's when you start keeping the promises you make to yourself. We overlook this so much. And for a lot of my life, I did overlook this. I would set my alarm and then I would set a second and third alarm and I would press snooze and what's another 30 minutes? And I would sleep to the very last possible second before, I got up, and then I would start my day. Then I'm starting my day off rushed. And then I don't have the energy to do things. I'm not fully present at what I'm doing. And then I'm wondering why, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed. And it all comes back down to not just that morning routine, but the night before, right? If I can plan the day the night before, I can go to bed when I say I'm going to go to bed, when I know I need to go to bed. I get a good night's rest. I get up early as soon as my alarm goes off. And then I start my day and I go through that morning routine. I'm having the discipline to complete the task I know I need to. Then I have the freedom to enjoy some time with my kids in the morning, not stress so much about work, and then just have a great rest of the day, be productive. Now, just because you're not pressing snooze, just because you're getting up early, just because you're doing the things you need to in order to set yourself up for a successful day, does not always mean it's going to be successful, right? There are things that are going to come up. Your kids are going to have events. Somebody's going to get sick. Your in-laws might pop over at your house. It's going to go. Things a lot of times don't go according to plan, but we have to detach from that, right? We can't worry about the outcome because we can't always control the outcome, right? But we can control the actions that we're taking in order to lead to better outcomes. And so that's a principle that took me a really long time to apply. There's a great book called The Inner Game of Tennis. I actually I don't know who wrote it. I can look that up. I don't remember the author for it, but it's a really great book, and it's kind of a sports psychology performance, elite performance book, but there's tons of takeaways that you can apply to tons of areas of life. And one of the biggest things that I got from it was about not being obsessed with the outcome of things, but being obsessed with the actions that lead to successful outcomes. And so I'm kind of paraphrasing that too, but that's something that I took away, and that's something that has really helped me with a lot of things I do, right? If you're wanting to lose weight, what do you have to do? Well, we need to check our nutrition. We need to make sure we're getting enough water in. We need to make sure we're getting enough sleep. We need to make sure we're exercising, we're moving. We're controlling the actions, right? We're being obsessed with the actions that are going to lead to the outcome. When you stand on the scale, is it going to be in the direction you want to go? Maybe not, right? Maybe you got woken up because you have young kids and they didn't sleep through the night. Maybe one of the meals you ate had more salt, and so your body's retaining water, right? So we can't always control what the scale is going to say, but we can control the actions in order to have a better chance that it's in our favor, right? If you want to learn or if you want to win a 5K, you signed up for a turkey trot on Thanksgiving this year, and next year, you're motivated, you want to win your age class there. Well, you can't necessarily control if that's going to happen, right? Because you're going to have, other dads, you're going to have other men who are in that age class who are going to be training as well. And they're all going to be trying to win as well too. But can you control how often you run throughout the week? Can you control your nutrition? Can you control your sleep? Can you control what you do from now until that 5K happens next year? Absolutely. And so if you're going to be obsessed about something, be obsessed about the actions you're taking that are going to lead to your success, because the outcome is out of our hands. And for 30 plus years of my life, that was something that I had trouble coming to grasp with. I thought, I'm doing these things, I should be getting these results. And unfortunately, that's not always the case, but we can control the actions that lead us in the right direction. And so discipline equals freedom, right? This is one of the big, I've been talking about this with my son, this book, Way of the Warrior Kid. It's, I think it was recommended for like 8 years plus. My son's not that old yet, but he's understanding the concepts. It's about a kid named Mark, whose Uncle Jake, who is a Navy SEAL, comes and stays with him. And he kind of teaches him through lessons. So if you haven't read the book yet, you've got young kids, it's a really good one. But I think it's really cool. I think it's really cool to have that mindset, because when we're taking care of the things that we want to take care of, or we need to take care of, then we get to do more of the things that we actually want to do. There's a Dave Ramsey, financial coach. I'm sure you've heard of him. Very, very popular. He talks about, like, when you do the things that others won't, you get to live like no one else. Or, again, I'm paraphrasing that, but um, same thing goes for finances, for fitness, for everything, right? When you're taking care of the things, when you're disciplined in the actions that are going to lead to a better life, then later on you're going to have more freedom, right? If you wake up early and get your workout in, you pack your lunch, you check your nutrition throughout the day, then when something comes up and somebody wants to go out to dinner over the weekend and you're having dessert, you're enjoying yourself with a meal, it's not that big a deal, because you've been disciplined up until that point. And so when you're disciplined most of the time, you get to enjoy yourself some of the time, right? But if you enjoy yourself most of the time and you try and be disciplined just a little bit of the time, the results aren't going to be what you want them to be. You're going to be frustrated, and it's going to feel like, what's the point, right? I'm sure, you've tried tons of different things in the past to try and get up early, become a morning person, to try and lose weight, to try and find an exercise routine that works for you, and you haven't been able to make it stick. And so you're asking yourself, what's the point? What's the point if I know I'm not going to be able to stick to it long term? So that's what I talk with my clients a lot of the time is like, we can do some of these things for a little while, but that's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in helping you create a lifestyle that you can stick to forever. Right? There's workout plans that ask you to work out 7 days a week. There's workout plans that ask you, to work out twice a day sometimes, right? Cut calories super low. Can you do it for a while? Sure. Will you see results quickly? Probably. But what happens as soon as you stop? So that's what I try and instill in my clients. What I try and work with them is that it doesn't end. Right? If you want to work out consistently, let's find a plan you can work out consistently. For most people, that's not 6 days a week. For busy dads, you got multiple kids, you may be working multiple jobs. Working out 6 days a week probably isn't realistic. But can you work out 2 days a week? Can you work out 3 days a week? Can you focus on hitting a step goal each day? And could you do that for the foreseeable future? Absolutely. Right? And so if you have time, maybe over the holidays, you aren't working as much and you have some time to go to the gym more than you normally do. Awesome. Do that. But then work on scaling it back to something that is sustainable, right? Figure out something that you can stick to in the busiest of times. If you can find a workout plan, if you can, focus on your nutrition, if you can start making healthier choices most of the time when you are at your busiest, then it's going to be much easier to stick with that, when things slow down. And so think long term here. Think about who you would become. There's a I think he mentions it in a number of his books, but Pastor Craig Groeschel talks about playing it forward, which is a concept that I thought was pretty cool. But he talks about the things you're doing right now. Like, play it forward. Like, what happens if you continue living the way you are right now for the next year? Things might get worse, things might get better, depending on what you're doing, right? But then scale that out to 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. What's going to happen, right? If you're not working out right now, what's going to happen a year from now? Probably not too much, right? What about 5 years? Your body's gonna get a little stiffer. You're not gonna be as strong as you once were. You're not gonna be able to do as much. 10 years. Now we start to have injuries because we're trying to help somebody move, and we haven't used those muscles properly in a long time, and all of a sudden we're hurt, right? Do that 20 years. All of a sudden you're, maybe you're already 40, maybe you're 50. Now you're getting to the point where you need a walker, you need assistance, right? But let's flip that now. What if you started working out? You're not working out any days right now, but you started working out this week, 1 day a week, and you did that for a year. Would you notice many changes? Yeah, probably not. Maybe a little bit. You'd start feeling a little better, right? But if we compare it to the person that you would have been a year from now, if you're not working out at all, there's pretty big difference there. Now we fast forward that 5 years, the person who started working out a couple times a week, 1 or 2 times a week, the person who didn't work out at all, now there's a pretty significant difference, right? And we scale that out 10 or 20 years, now there's a huge difference between those two people. And all it took was 30 or 45 minutes a couple times a week, right? And so like when we start to think of the future, when we start to think about what could happen, play it both ways. Don't just look at the negative, look at the positive too, right? If you cut a couple hundred calories from, your meals each week, after a month, you're not going to notice much. But after a year, that's a pretty big difference. You'll lose quite a bit of weight. You do that for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, all of a sudden you're a different person. Now, if you just add 100 calories to a meal, after a year, probably wouldn't notice a ton. But you do that 2, 3, 4 years, all of a sudden, you're 50, 60, 70, sometimes 100 pounds overweight. And you're thinking, how did it get this bad? Well, it didn't happen all at once. It happened very slowly, right? Most changes do, right? It didn't happen. You didn't gain weight overnight. You're not going to get in shape overnight. It takes time, right? That's where this discipline equals freedom concept, I think is so powerful, because these actions, these tasks that you're going to take add up. They stack up, right? And that starts, the very first thing, Craig Ballantyne, he's a business coach out of Toronto, talks about like the snooze button. You're saying you're delaying your dreams when you press snooze. You're putting a hold on your life there, and you're saying, we can push this off until later. But what if just for maybe a month you committed to not pressing snooze? You got up when you said you were going to do. You started your day off on the right foot. Then we can stack that. Then we can add on to that. Then maybe now that we're up a little earlier, maybe we start doing some stretching. Maybe we start doing maybe a little jogging outside, maybe a quick walk, maybe a workout. You do that for a little while. And then maybe you add a little bit more. And now all of a sudden, you got up when you said you're going to do. You got a workout in the morning. Chances are you're feeling pretty good, and you're going to eat a little better too, right? You may have noticed, and maybe you haven't, and maybe that's something to just bring some awareness to this week. But when you're stressed, when you're not feeling your best, it's a lot easier to not eat well, right? But when you are feeling really well, it's a little easier to make some positive decisions. And so this week, just try it. Try it for a couple days. Get up when you say you're going to do. Maybe add a little bit of movement and just keep stacking the wins, right? When you're disciplined in the area and the outcomes, when you're disciplined in the areas and the actions that lead to the outcomes you want, then all of a sudden you're going to start to see things start working out for you. That concludes this episode of the Fatherhood Fitness Podcast. Thank you for those of you who took time out of your busy schedules to listen. If you have any questions or comments or an idea for a topic for a future episode, please feel free to reach out, and I'd love to hear from you.